goes from $10 a month to $400 a month. And it's like, whoa, what happened? Hi, Jeff Versace, the plain English attorney, and welcome to today's interview with John Heck. John Heck is a financial advisor that leads a digital family office. His specialty is financial planning and asset protection. And with 35 years in the industry, he has authored numerous articles in local and national print and online media. And what sets him apart from others in this industry is the ability to kind of break down what seems like complex concepts and ideas and explain them in simple terms. So, John, welcome to the video. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. All right. So, let's go ahead and just kind of jump into the topic. Now, what we're going to be discussing today is financial planning and getting started. We're not going to talk about any complex, specific techniques. We're really just going to talk about what do you need to look at different stages of life and different types of investments. But one of the biggest things that I sometimes see is clients who are just kind of paralyzed because they don't know where to get started. So, what are some of the best? What's the best advice you can give for people to just get started in building their wealth and building their retirement when they have absolutely no idea what they're doing?
What you're talking about reminds me of paralysis by analysis, right? And
Yeah.
everybody wants, don't let perfect be the enemy of done, right? Just show
Hmm.
up, man. Just get started. The hardest step of any journey is the first one, right? You gotta just get in the game, just begin.
Hmm.
I have a son that's he's got his first job right now, and he's interested in getting started, in this, investment world. And so the first thing we did was just set him up with a direct deposit that comes from his checking account to a savings account or an investment account. Doesn't have to be a lot, especially if you're just getting started. 20 bucks a paycheck, or is hardly noticed. And if you're 18, 20, 21, 25, 30 years old, you know you don't notice it, but it goes a long, long way with the time value of money.
If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel.
Right. So really you're talking about, look, if you don't see it going into your regular account, you're not counting on it. You're not seeing it, but it's going somewhere where it's being invested.
Absolutely. And also, as time goes on, and in our careers, we earn more money. If you get a 2% raise every year, if that's what your employer does for you each year, a lot of times people just put that right into their checking account, and the money just evaporates. It gets spent.
Yeah.
It goes out the door. If you're already living prior to that, comfortably, just add at least a portion of that to what you're already saving. And you'll be surprised how that it may seem like a little bit of money, but it adds up over a long period of time.
Okay. Well, what do you do then if somebody's say, "Oh my gosh, I'm turning 40 and I really haven't saved anything." What do they do then? How do they get started?
Well, again, first step is to start saving and start and show up, right? But the first question I would ask that person is, I would ask them, well, what do you have any debt? And especially in today's environment, with interest rates being as high as they are, carrying loads of debt is a very, very bad idea. So the first thing is to pay off your debt. Get rid of that. Debt is an absolute cancer when it comes to your financial health. And then save money before you start to invest. Make sure you've got some money, some cash reserves, whether that be, some experts say, 3 months worth of expenses. If you lost your job, 6 months worth of expenses. Those are all great goals. Whatever makes sense for you, but you got to have some cash for emergencies, for opportunities that show up, and then the investment portion should begin at that point. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes people will say to me, Jeff, I've got, $20,000, $30,000 worth of debt. I'm never going to get out of this. You'd be surprised how fast you can get out of it if you really, really wanted to. The $5 coffee at Starbucks every day, if you just add up over the course of a year how much that cost you, you'd be surprised how fast you can pay off your debt.
All right. Now, does some of this, when you're first meeting with people, does it actually involve budgeting and saying, okay, I'm actually going to sit down and look at what you're actually spending your money on, and let's talk about what you can do without? Like, of course, the easiest example is that $5 a day at Starbucks. Well, $5 a
Mhm.
day, 7 days a week. All right, that's $35 times 52. That's okay. If all of that was going in and compounding and growing, fantastic. But what are some of the other areas that people can start to take a look at when budgeting?
Yeah, it's a lot of times you look at the budget. I always tell people, make a list of what is going out the door. Spend a month tracking every nickel that you spend, whether it be on that Starbucks coffee or a candy bar when you stop for gas or whatever it is. All the things that some of the things that you can't avoid and the things that you can avoid. And it's usually that exercise alone is an eye opener for people because they really don't realize in many instances how much money they're actually spending on things that they don't need to be spending on. Cable bill is another one. I mean, some people are paying, $250, $300 a month for cable, and they watch four programs. So,
Yeah.
so look at something like that and say, can I reduce expenses on that? Do you have a cell phone in your house? Maybe you don't need the house phone, and that might be part of your cable bill.
Yeah.
That could be $40, $50 a month in and of itself. And most people don't even answer their phone if they have one in the house. So that's
Yeah.
another one that could be utilized.
Yeah, it's amazing. Years and years ago, I got rid of the whole cable thing, and instead we have the internet service providing at home. And then we've got the couple of programs that we watch. Well, we get the subscription to that particular streaming service. It's like between a third and a half of what we were paying before, because all the rest of the stuff we just didn't need. Now,
Yeah.
another area that I've seen, personally and with other people, food. Okay, look, you got to eat, but you don't need to DoorDash 2 meals a day. Look, if
No,
you can,
absolutely.
hey, and you know what? After a while, cooking is fun. And I
Yeah.
do a lot of my own meal prep. So I'll put together stuff for several days and I'm good to go. And okay, it's a lot cheaper than just going out for lunch at work. You're bringing it into work. And honestly, I get a lot more work done that way because I'm not
Right.
driving to and from. So
And depending
that
on what
can
you're
save us
cooking
money.
with, it's better for you.
Yeah,
It's better for you in a
absolutely.
lot of instances.
Yeah, one of the things, and again, this is going back now about 5 years. Uh, I just made sure that I had healthy snacks in the office. So it's not like, okay, I'm getting to lunchtime and there isn't anything around. There's healthy stuff in my office as opposed to what, okay, look, I've only got a couple of minutes. McDonald's is right down the road. Oh gosh, that was
Yeah.
just bad for you if that's all you're eating
Yeah.
5 days a week at work. So having the healthy stuff in the office helped me lose a whole bunch
Hmm.
of weight. And look, I feel a lot better too. And now that extra money can end up being put to good use instead of having junk going into your body.
Yeah. Another good place to look for savings too, Jeff, is insurance. We spend an awful lot of money on different
Mhm.
types of insurance: our car insurance, health insurance, oftentimes life insurance. Those you should shop, especially the homeowners and renters insurance, car
Mhm.
insurance. You should shop that periodically. I fell into that trap several years ago. I had a car insurance company I had for decades.
Hmm.
And it was just easy to renewal came in and just paid it. And then one day I realized that I could get the same coverage elsewhere, much less.
Hmm.
So, the insurance markets change from time to time. I don't know, where I live in Florida, insurance companies tend to come in and they realize that maybe there's too much risk here for their book of business or whatever, and insurance companies pull out of the state all the time. So our market is always in flux.
Hmm.
So it's especially if you live in a place like that, you should definitely check on that periodically. The other thing I would add too is if you have life insurance that you've had for many, many years, a lot of people think that the older you get, the more expensive it gets. That can be true depending on your health and depending on the type of policy, different things. But people are also living longer. So the
Yeah.
mortality tables have adjusted through the years. So oftentimes when I talk to people, because I do a lot of work with insurance as well, people are often shocked to find that they can get the same coverages for less than what they had. And in some cases, they get more coverages because there's some innovations in the life insurance industry that can really help in your overall planning.
Well, and this is also something, once you're actually in those retirement ages, I know we're kind of branching off a little bit. You're in those retirement ages that, again, we're getting to a little bit of not just paralysis, but more routine. I have a lot of senior clients because, well, I do estate planning, I do Medicaid planning, and they have their Medicare supplements and they just, well, okay, I'm just going to renew. I'm just going to renew. I'm just going to renew. These things change. Now, it's not just statewide that
Hmm.
changes can happen when you're talking about Medicare supplements. It can be county by county. And if a one of your drugs that's covered by your Medicare supplement, suddenly they take it off the schedule and you're still getting that prescription, it comes January, you just renewed, and your copay goes from $10 a month to $400 a month. And it's like, whoa, what happened? This was only $10 a month.
Yep.
Well, that dropped off the schedule. I had one client tell me they were they were very, very happy that the pharmacist said, okay, just to let you know that your copay is going to jump if you keep the same insurance. Most pharmacists aren't going to tell them that. And so they ended up
Mhm.
scrambling, finding somebody within the enrollment period, and they made the change. Their copay actually went from, I think it was $10 to $5 a month. So they actually even saved money as opposed to, oh, it's going to jump another several $100s per month just on a copay. Now, again, that money can be used somewhere else, or at least if you're in retirement and now you're on a fixed income and you're draining little
Mhm.
bits of money and taking your income, that could be a huge hit to your overall retirement if you're not looking at it and planning it each month.
You're right. That's a big one. Medicare is, especially for those on a fixed income, is very important. That's something I do as well. I've got many clients that I tell them every year, if we do nothing else, we've got to look at that drug plan because those drug
Yeah.
plans change. It's also very important if they have Medicare Advantage. I don't think you want to go down that road of the differences there, but the
Oh,
Medicare
a
Advantage
lot.
is something that often does change, and their doctors come and go. There's, especially for older folks that have a relationship with a particular physician, they want to maintain that. It's incumbent upon them to make sure that their doctor is still accepting that plan. Every year, I get phone calls from at least a client or two that says, "Hey, my doctor's no longer in the plan. What can I do?"
Yeah.
So yeah, there's things to do there as well. So it's not just set it and forget it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And look, Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, we could spend a whole hour on that alone
Sure.
and what kind of effects it has, not just monetarily, but also, like you said, look, the doctor might not be there anymore. All right.
Hmm.
So, what if? taking it now, what if someone's 55 and they're like, well, okay, I've saved a little bit here and there, but I've never really been serious about retirement. Uh, I just took a look at everything and I've got about 100 grand. I know I'm going to need a lot more.
Mhm.
What do I need to do?
So these are sometimes difficult conversations because they know the answer that's coming and they don't want to hear it, which is why they've
Yeah.
avoided it, the conversation for so long. One of the things that is very important, even prior to getting to this point, is you should be working with a financial professional because they can give you the guidance and they can give you the tough love conversations along the way at times if they're good and at what they do and they're actually engaged in your life, which they should be. um,
Yeah.
so hire a professional. Make sure that you get some kind of financial plan done. Now, there's different kinds of financial plans, and we can talk. I mean, that could be a whole nother show if you want. But I'll just say this: I try to break it down to these two types of plans. Number one is one that's used as a sales tool to get you your business on their books, and then it gets put in a drawer and forgotten about, and they don't know what's in it, they don't understand it, and they forget about it. And then there's the other kind that we tend to do is we use it as a baseline. Okay, we want to
Mhm.
revisit that financial plan periodically. It doesn't have to be every quarter or every month unless something drastic changes in your world as the client, but we're not using it as a sales tool. We're using it as what it's intended to be, which is a financial plan. So we
Mhm.
can look at that, 18 months from now, let's say 2 years from now, and say, this is what we set out to do. This is where we are. Are we still on that same course? And should we be? Because maybe something's changed in your world that we need to update the plan. That's very, very important. The planning, the financial plan is not an event. And for too many people, that's how they view it. As an
Mhm.
event, they do it once, it's over, and they say, okay, well, we did that, we checked that box, and we moved on to something else. No, planning is a process that should be looked at and adjusted accordingly, because there's a lot of things that can affect the financial plan that happen either drastically or slowly over time. And the slower ones are the ones that really kill people, because it happens so slowly that oftentimes you don't even realize that it's happening. And then
Yeah.
one you get to a certain point and you look back and you're like, oh yeah, this happened, but I didn't even realize that it was happening. So very important to make sure you revisit that.
Yeah. Well, and I end up with the same thing in the estate planning realm where people, okay, I checked this off my box. It's like, well, okay, good. You got a plan together. But really, I've seen over the years, and I've been doing it long enough to see it over the years, it's really about every 5 to 7 years, there's at least one, if not several big things that people want to change, but they don't even think about it. When, especially if we're doing something like revocable living trusts, we recommend that our clients come in every year just to review, go through, make sure everybody's still there. Everybody is the right person for the job that they have, that their beneficiaries are going to be the same. And in particular, did you do any new investments or assets that we need to make sure are coordinating with your trust? But like I said, it's five to
Mhm.
seven years. There's a change. Every year, they should be coming in to review stuff. They, like you said, they don't realize, oh my gosh, is that really what I had down when they're coming in 10 years later? They could have completely had all the people that they were listing as trustees and power of attorney and executors. They could be out of their lives, out of favor. This person passed on. It's like I just didn't even think about it.
And divorce. I mean,
Yeah.
how many times have you
Yeah.
seen somebody come in and a beneficiary designation on a 401k plan with $500,000 is the ex-wife, and they didn't
Yeah.
even think to change it?
Yeah.
You want to talk
Yeah.
about an
It's
uncomfortable conversation?
well, and I was just reviewing a case with a colleague. uh, somebody put down their girlfriend at the time when they started at the company on their 401k, and it's now 30 years later and they died in an accident. Person got married to someone else, had kids, whatever. Nope, that girlfriend is the beneficiary. And she's like, wow, okay, I wasn't counting on that, but no, I'm taking the money. And that whole
Right.
everything that they were building up in that 401k and that retirement that was supposed to be there for their spouse and kids, gone because they didn't stay on top of it.
And legally, there's virtually nothing you can do about it once it
Yeah.
occurs, right?
Yeah.
When the death happens, or that's very unfortunate, and it does happen. And Jeff, I'm of the opinion, yes, it is the responsibility of the owner of those assets to be on top of that, but in reality, that they don't do that every day, right?
Yeah.
They're engaged in their businesses like we're engaged in our businesses. They have lives and families and different things going on. It's incumbent upon us as professionals, if we're doing a proper job for our clients, is to have those conversations with them periodically. You don't have to
Hmm.
stay on top of them, monthly or anything, but when you talk to them, I always try to keep like a checklist in front of me of things that I want to touch on with somebody. I don't have to hit every
Hmm.
one of them in every single meeting, because quite honestly, the list can be too long. But every once in a while, if I know that I haven't asked John and Mary about, their have you bought any new real estate lately? That's something that you want to be able to make sure that you have that in the trust, right? And
Yeah.
so many times, I mean, just Friday alone, somebody told me, yeah, yeah, we just bought a new house. I'm going to give you my address. Okay, great. Did you call your attorney yet? Because that should have been the first. That should have been the first phone call. Thank you for
Yeah.
thinking of me first, but now get off the phone with me and call your attorney and get this updated.
Yeah. Look, it happens all the time. All right. So, all right, let's go a little bit more since we were talking about various ages and stages of investing and getting started and what are you looking at. There's also this risk versus reward when you're talking about the actual investing, and that shifts over time. I can't tell you how many clients that I've had over like a couple of decades, and they're still investing like they were when they're 30 and now they're in their 50s, and it's so risky. It's like, well, wait a minute, maybe you should scale back. Well, look, it's worked for me so far. Okay, but you don't have as many years left if there is a big downturn in the
Yes.
market. And maybe even at that point, start shifting some things, a percentage into stuff that's safe and secure and not in the market. And then you get a little bit older. Okay, the closer you get to retirement, the more the priority shifts from growing the assets to making sure it's secure and that it's going to be there. So let's talk a little bit about that. Where do you see that in, say, 30? Well, okay, just starting out, early 20s, 35, and then maybe 55.
The biggest mistake that I see on a regular basis, this is not just every once in a while, but on a regular basis, is what you just described, is that I'm going to take that a step further. They're in retirement and they're still investing like they're 30. And one of the ways to make sure that that doesn't happen is with a proper financial plan, because you're right. The goals shift over time. What people want to know when they're 30, 40, and 50 years old is, when can I retire? How much money do I need to retire? As they get closer, as they're 55 years old, 60 years old, can I retire? Do I now have enough money to retire? If not, how much more do I need? And when they're
Mhm.
in retirement, am I going to run out of money? those are the big factors, and that's why a financial plan is so important, because that financial plan will keep you and your advisor on track and help answer those questions. Plus, the financial plans, when we do our financial plan, we have something called a decision center in there that helps people make big financial decisions. For example, they want to buy a car. Okay, if we buy a car, should we finance the car or should we pay cash for the car? Well, if we pay cash, what's that going to do to our financial plan? How long if at all, is it going to affect our financial plan and our ability to retire? What if we wanted to buy a lake house? Okay, well, let's take a look at that. If we spent X amount of dollars over here on a lake house, yeah, we've got the balance sheet goes up over here. We take it from here, we put it over here. So it really didn't change much. But what does that do to your retirement? Are you going to now outlive your money or not? And same thing as if you're going to sell an asset. What's that going to look like? You know, I had a client several years ago who they worked very, very hard. They were business owners. They sold their business for a lot of money. They had, I don't know, it was like $10 million or something. And the husband was deadly afraid of spending a nickel because he was afraid that what they worked for their entire lives, they were going to run out of. And the wife's position was, you know, we worked so hard for our entire lives. Now, you know, we're in our 60s, we've got grandkids, we've got all this going for us. I want to start enjoying it. You know, she wanted to take the grandkids on her Disney cruise and all this stuff. So there was some conflict there. So that's also where a good solid financial plan can come into place, and we could set up a spending plan for a couple like that, because sometimes there is that difference of opinion as to what we should or shouldn't do. But when you can see it in black and white, or in our case it's color report, but when you see it like that, it often puts that conversation to rest. So it's critically important to go back to that. Just the financial plan is so important to all of that.
Okay. Well, how do you see the whole risk versus reward just in the market, not percentages?
Hmm.
Okay, let me explain. This is something that I tell people all the time. If they're just thinking about, oh, everything is going to be in the market forever, and all I really have to think about is, do I want aggressive, moderate, or conservative investing? And that's all I ever have to think about. It's like, well, no, no, no. There's
Hmm.
also simultaneously what's in the market, what percentage of your investments is going to be in the market versus safe versus things like real estate. You have to look at these together. And that's kind of where you get to with that solid financial plan. But just for whatever the percentage is that's in the market, how do you see that aggressive, moderate, conservative thing? How do you see that working out for your clients over the years?
In general, like from the 60,000 overfoot view, that's a place to start. Okay. However, what we do is something a little bit different than a lot of our contemporaries out there. Is we use something called layered investment management, and what that means is we look at those percentages, but that again, that's where we start. The more
Mhm.
layers you have, and by layers I mean different elements of the portfolio doing different things at different times for different reasons. The
Okay.
reality is nobody really knows what's going to happen in the market going forward. We can look back, we can make projections what we think is going to happen. Perfect example is recently there was something on Yahoo Finance. It's a great chart. I can share it with you if you'd like. But it's a list of the top 12 investment banks out there, and what they think the market, the S&P 500, is going to do in the next 12 months. the differences were across the board. Like a third of them thought the market was going to be up, a third of them thought the market was going to be sideways, and a third of them thought the markets were going to be down. So to the point of nobody really knows what's going to happen, here you have the top 12 investment banks in the world all looking at the same data at the same time and drawing different conclusions. So how that relates to layering investments into different styles of investing is that the truth is nobody knows which one is going to do the best at a particular point in time. So the more of those styles that you have, the better your chances are of having one or two or three of those investment styles that are in favor, and they're not all going to do well. So you have to do that. The other thing that is important too is consumers need to understand who they're talking to when they're getting their investment advice. Okay, I break it down this way. There's three basic ways to get your investment, or three different sources to get your investment advice from. Number one is your typical stockbroker. We've all seen the Wolf of Wall Street with the big boiler room, and they're on the phones, and that is very, very common in the industry, unfortunately. But how they get compensated is very different than a financial advisor. Advisor doesn't get paid for transactions; they're paid transactionally. So they're not a fiduciary; they're a commission salesperson. Now, I'm not knocking commission salespeople, but what I'm saying is that their goals may or may not be in alignment with a client at a particular period in time. So that's important to understand. And if they only have a securities license, all they can talk to you about is their investments. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other type of investment advisor is the advisor itself. They have a particular type of license that makes them a fiduciary to their client, meaning just like you as an attorney or a CPA or a physician, we have to do what is in the client's best interest at all times. And then there's the insurance producer. Okay, these guys are very useful at times, but if they only have an insurance license, all they can talk to you about is insurance products. They're going to talk to you about whole life insurance, universal life, which is fine. There can be a place in someone's planning for those things: annuities, fixed annuities, variable annuities, those types of things. But here's the important part. If let's say I was a carpenter and the only tool I had in my bag was a hammer, everything I see is going to look like a nail, right?
Very true.
If you're an insurance, if you only have an insurance license, you can't talk to somebody else about their investments. If you only have a securities license, you can't talk to them about their insurance products. But there are some advisors out there that have both an insurance license and a securities license. And preferably, if you have $50,000 or more to invest, you should be hiring an advisor, not a stockbroker. If you find an advisor that has an insurance license, that's important because, to your point, is they understand both sides of the fence and they know how they fit together. The best advice I can give to anybody is that if you come across an advisor or an insurance agent or whatever, and they say you should always do this or you should never do that, don't walk, run.
Yeah.
That means they have an agenda.
And I think this kind of gets back to part of what you do. You're part of a digital family office where even if you are handling, investments in the market and you don't have an insurance license, part of your team should be someone who has that kind of life license, which should also coordinate with someone who handles homeowners auto and umbrella policies. And then we're going to end up talking about this just a little bit. There's also that tax angle, having an accountant or a CPA, and then also your estate planning attorney who's looking at your long-term goals, all of that stuff together, and potentially other professionals. They should be coordinating to make sure that you're getting the best value for everything. Now, I'm going to tell a story here. Like you said, if you're a carpenter, but all you know is how to use a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Uh, Back when I started really being serious about health and working out, I ended up with my shoulder being a little bit messed up. I kind of worked it the wrong way. And so, okay, I ended up going uh, to a good friend who's a massage therapist. She's like, well, okay, you've got a problem with your muscles here and the muscles here and the muscles there. And then I have a chiropractor I went to. It's like, okay, well, look, really the problem is you've got these joint issues here. And then I ended up going as just as a regular physical, went to the doctor, and he's like, immediately, well, okay, I can prescribe you some pain pills, but they're narcotics, and maybe we'll have to schedule you for surgery. I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Pills and surgery? I ended up talking with a friend of mine who's just very health conscious, and he does a lot of working out. And he's like, okay, tell me about your workout routine, because he knew I was working out and losing weight and trying to gain muscle.
Mhm.
Turns out I hated doing those overhead presses, so I just didn't do them. And what I didn't realize was doing and building up muscles in all these other areas, but not the top shoulder. That's what was screwing everything up, because it was all out of whack. And so he said, look, I hate to tell you this, but kind of start over with your working out, bring the weights way down and slowly build it up, but don't increase anything on any of those other exercises until you're increasing the overhead stuff. Meanwhile, go to the massage therapist, have those muscles worked on, because that's going to relieve some of your pain, give you more flexibility. Go to the chiropractor, because that is going to relieve some of the pain and help everything get put together. Next year, go to the doctor's like, oh, so do we need to schedule you for that surgery or not? And I was like, what are you talking about? Because the problem had been gone for about 8 months when I just looked at everything. Look, it's the same thing with your finances and your life and your planning for estates and things like that. When you have all of those different perspectives, you're going to come out healthier overall. And that's why I really like the digital family office as a concept and as a practice.
Yeah, I love that story, Jeff. That's so true. Um, and the and to your point, the what we do with the digital family office is so important. We're literally building a team of advisors around the client. That's what we're doing. And if the client comes to us and they already have, a certain service provider that they like, that's fantastic. We're not looking to replace anybody. I want to reach out to them. I want to say to them, say, hey, look, we're working with Joe and Sally here in this regard. We know you're working with them too. We just want to communicate. We want to open up the lines of communications. If you have a question, make sure you call us and ask us. Coops, quite honestly, it's, in my opinion, it's a failure of the industry as a whole that doesn't happen. Service providers all around these clients are working in their own silos, meaning that the insurance guys over here, the investment guys over here, the CPAs that may be in a different town, and nobody's talking to each other. We tend, in our industries, we tend to think of ourselves, I guess individually, as being the most important piece of the puzzle, but in reality, we're just a piece of the puzzle, right? The actual bigger picture is the financial planning that goes in. Investment planning, which we do, is a piece of financial planning. That's why we start with the financial plan, because for us to do a proper job for somebody, I can't necessarily tell them what investment strategies are best for their particular situation until I know more about them. Especially, one of the things that's very important is the estate plan. We always ask, hey, what's your estate plan look like? Oh, we don't have one. All right, well, let me introduce you to Jeff, right? Let me introduce you to an attorney that's in your state that can work with you. So and if we don't have one, we endeavor to find one and build around that client. A lot of times they'll have one. They say, well, yeah, we have one. When was the last time it was reviewed? Well, probably not since we got it in 1992. We lived in Ohio. Well, now you're in Florida. I mean, how many times have you seen that
Yeah.
transpire,
All the time.
right? And the nuances between state to state could be such that your best intentions go to waste because every state is a little bit different.
Okay. Well, I may be asking you a little bit of a loaded question, but I'm going to try to, I'm comparing this really to estate planning. Look, my firm really tries to focus on preventing problems from happening. And that's why we're very typically looking and getting a lot of clients that come in who want their estate to avoid probate. They're coming to us because they had some bad experience either with a parent or another relative's estate. It took a long time, it got really expensive. All right, but look, I fully acknowledge that there are some people who, okay, I just need to get something started. Let's go ahead and do like the simple wills, which I actually now have a kind of online in-office hybrid program. It's onlineRaleighWills.com, so that they can go in, get the basic information, get my law firm. Here's the information after going through your materials. Here's who we want to do certain things. Let's go ahead and get these simple documents put together. It's quick and it's a lot less expensive than meeting with the attorney and going through everything and coming up with everything and having a lot of in office meetings. All right, great. That's a place to start and then build on that. All right, maybe the next year you should be coming in. Let's talk about a revocable living trust as a concept. Maybe they're not ready. All right, so what are some kind of really starter, I hate to say it, starter investments? But I think the answer that you're really going to give is come in and get the plan done. Am I right?
The financial plan is definitely the start, but I'll go back to what I said in the very beginning is make sure that you've got your debt paid off and you've got a cash reserve. Then keep it simple. If you're starting from ground zero and you're just getting started, keep it simple. Broad index funds is a great place because if you're just starting out and you've got a zero balance and you're trying to get to a larger balance, you got to start somewhere. So if you're going to invest $100 a month, it's very difficult to create this layered investment management strategy that I was talking about earlier with $100. But to start somewhere, broad index fund will give you a certain amount of diversification, and then a second in broad index fund. Like maybe start with an S&P 500 fund, maybe start with an international fund or something, or a bond fund or something like that. Just to get started. Once you gain some experience with investing and assets, then you absolutely want to consult with a qualified financial advisor and get that financial plan done. And you can even do a version of the financial plan just to kind of give you like a high level overview for prior to the point where you're ready for a full-blown financial plan. But yes, absolutely, the best place to start is with broad index funds if you're starting from zero.
Okay. All right. Well, that was John Heck. We had a very great conversation on getting started in financial planning. John, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, two ways. You could reach me directly. My direct line is 239-872-8593, or you can reach us through our website at what is our website? protectionpointadvisors.com. Also, I'd throw out there too. We do a series of webinars each month on different topics. We oftentimes will have different professionals, guest speakers on various topics. It could be insurance related, investments, taxes, legal, variety of different things. Right on our website, you can register for that. There's also a link on the website that you can go back and view some past webinars that we've done. So it's a great resource for people. I encourage people to take advantage of it.
Excellent. And again, I'm Jeff Marsaci, the plain English attorney. So you can kind of get my information through the YouTube channel. The easiest way is youtube.com/NC lawyer. But my law firm, based in Raleigh, North Carolina, with an office in Asheville, you can reach us at 919-844-7993. And we've got our website at livingtrustlawfirm.com. Now, one of the programs that I mentioned, we've actually got a kind of free guide that you can get to, which will also take you to the online program. It's freesimplewillguide.com. Again, freesimplewillguide.com. And if you're looking to go a little more advanced for our revocable living trust free educational program, it's very simple, freetrustcourse.com. All right. Well, thank you again, John, for being with us today and providing a lot of good, useful information. And as I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life. And whatever you do, make it a great day. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jeff.